what's interesting about where we are as a fan base. I think we have all come to the realization, even as grumpy old man, as anti-tanking as I am, and Brenden knows this because he has heard me whining and crying about it for 3 seasons now, about how I hate tanking, I don't like tanking, and I understand. And the worst thing about tanking is that it kind of works. And now you are starting to see the Blazers kind of put some stuff together. And I go back, because we had Kurt Heelan from NBC Sports on yesterday, but then we went right into the mailbag. Didn't really have some time to kind of decipher what he talked about. And he was essentially saying, like, the Blazers probably not fighting for a playoff spot, but they're not going to be god-awful. Right? They're not going to be, one of these teams that we talk about, like the Detroit Pistons last year, where is this one of the historic? No, they're just going to be young. Probably are they going to win too many games? And so you get the schedule. And for years, for probably multiple years, decades, at least as a fan of my age and with the internet in our lives, this time of year when the schedule comes out for the NBA, the first thing Blazer fans have done forever, and I think every other fan base except for the Lakers, except for the Celtics, except for the Knicks, and maybe throw in the Miami Heat. For years and years and years, other than the last 3, I would assume, maybe the last 2, Blazer fans and Bucks fans before Giannis, probably Oklahoma City fans. What you would do is you would pull up the schedule and be like, NBA screwing us. League is screwing us. Look at this road trip we got to go on.
So true.
Look at these back-to-backs we got to play. Look at all the Lakers nationally televised games. Look. And now when you're in a place where, yeah, you want the best for your team. Brenden, do we care if the league is screwing the Blazers? Which, by the way, like the idea that
we kind of want them to, actually.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
How weird is this? It feels weird
It
to
does.
look at the schedule and be like, oh, that's going to be a rough road trip. Not so bad, though.
Sweet. It's like, yeah, tough road trip. Sweet.
Oddities of the schedule, though. Things that
Shoot. Yeah, let's go for it.
Oddities of the schedule, and this might be because it might be because of the NBA Cup. My apologies. It's not the in-season tournament anymore. It's the Emeritus Cup, and I shall treat it with the distinction of something that was made up a year ago.
Yeah,
but they played Minnesota 2 out of 3 times in November.
I think you get all your matchups with the Pelicans out of the way by October 15th. Like, you play the Pelicans 3 times in the first 2 weeks. So that's what I noticed. I'm like, oh, yeah. Cool. Okay, the Pelicans, Zion, cool, 3 times.
So you get the Pelicans 2 of your first 3 games of the season, then a 3rd game. But you also, on November 8th, play the Timberwolves. Then on November 12th, 4 days later, play the Timberwolves. On the 13th, 5 days later, you play the Timberwolves. It's just that's a weird oddity, but that might be because of the NBA Cup, I think. Because that's in November, right? One of those might be an NBA Cup. I don't know. I still don't know how it works.
What if you just don't like it, Justin? Can we just pretend it doesn't exist?
We tried that last year, and then they put the big, ugly court out there. And I say this as an Oregon fan. I know a thing or two about big, ugly courts.
You like the new one? I think you were gone when it debuted. I think you were in.
I was gone.
Yeah.
And can I tell you?
Don't like it. Okay.
I don't like it.
Is it better than the last one? Or would you have stuck with the old one?
We got to get over this whole tree thing.
Okay.
Got to get over the whole tree thing. Just make a cool court. It's so hard. Like, everything you do is kind of cool. It's your biggest miss. It is that court.
Of everything,
is
that's
Oregon's
the miss.
Other than RoboDuck, right? Other than RoboDuck.
Well, that's another great pull.
Because that, to that point, is still Oregon and Nike's biggest miss.
RoboDuck went in a closet, man, and they're like, "Oh, that costume's there. Do you want us to bring it out, Phil?" No.
Take that out back and
burn
it. But what was interesting, because the whole reason they created RoboDuck, right?
A little before my time when he debuted. Because it was what?
Okay, so
03?
RoboDuck.
It was like 03, 04, right?
RoboDuck debuted in 2002. I know because
I was 6. So
I was
I
was at the game. I was at the game it debuted, and Autzen Stadium had been renovated the year before. They added the south side, which actually faced south.
I don't know. Shot at Reeser. I hear you.
Mean-spirited, but
I hear. I mean, it does make sense the way it's
faces
positioned.
south. And so the whole thing was like, oh, when we renovated Autzen Stadium, we found this thing, and it was like an egg, and it's only to be debuted when it will only hatch when the Oregon Ducks win back-to-back Pac-10 championships, which they did in 2000 and 2001. So in 2002, a season that started with some promise, but Joey Harrington and a bunch of NFL players left, and Oregon would end up being 6-6 that year with a defense that was incredibly young and got torched week in and week out by the likes of Andrew Walter, that's a name, and Carson Palmer and the like. But
they were two-year champs, right? Because it was a three-way co-champs in 00.
In 2000, they won the conference with Oregon State and Washington as a perfect three-way tie.
Crazy, right?
But because Oregon, again, this is a problem with Oregon, because Oregon lost to Wisconsin to open the season at Camp Randall, and Oregon State barely beat New Mexico. Not that I remember that or anything.
The Lobos.
And Washington, I think, they were perfect three-way tie, so you go head-to-head. Well, it was a perfect three-way tie in head-to-head.
Yes,
Oregon State beat Oregon.
know.
Oregon beat Washington. Washington beat Oregon State. So they're like, all right. So I think the third tiebreaker was non-conference, and Oregon had the loss against Wisconsin. So that knocked Oregon out to the Holiday Bowl.
Which was
then you go back to head-to-head. Washington beat Oregon State. So Washington got the Rose Bowl, and the Beavs got the Fiesta Bowl, which arguably was the better bowl. I mean, it wasn't the Rose Bowl, and I'm sure Oregon State fans would much rather have had that memory of walking into the Rose Bowl. But you got the Fiesta Bowl, and you got Notre Dame.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
There's
and as opposed to playing, who would they have played? I think Purdue.
Yeah,
I think Washington
Drew Brees
beat
right?
Purdue.
Yeah, so I mean, it's
you had Drew Brees, but that's not Notre Dame. That's not beating the dog out of Notre Dame.
Oh yeah, no, it's Justin. Like, I'll tell you this because I told my brother this yesterday because he's going to be a freshman at Oregon State here in a month and a half. Because he was, we were talking about some of the best games I've seen at Reeser Stadium and whatnot, and he was like, oh, that 2022 Civil War, and I was like, oh yeah, that's gonna live on as one of my all-time favorite Civil Wars. And then I mentioned to him, I'm like, Brogan, growing up, I just didn't see a lot of Oregon State victories.
Yeah,
most in that game. And then I was like, Brogan, you have no idea what it was like to be one game away from the Rose Bowl 2 years in a row.
Yeah,
and have it come down to Oregon twice, and they got you both times. And
then as an Oregon fan, you go back to 2000, you were one game away from the Rose Bowl and everything. And
like to that point, I was like, Brogan, I have been hearing from my family or my parents, my grandparents, my uncle, my cousins, Justin, the entire Slaughter clan basically went down to the Fiesta Bowl in 2000.
Oh yeah,
and it's been like that pastime story that you hear about for 25 years. It's like
that's a game that people lie about going to.
Yeah,
now I was at the 1995. But the 94 season Rose Bowl, watched Kajana Carter go 82 yards, opening play from scrimmage, touchdown. It's like, well, it might be a long day. But that's a game where Oregon fans lie. Oh, I was there. I was at that Rose. The 2001, because it's New Year's Day, that Fiesta Bowl is one. That's how you know it's a big game. When people lie about being there, we say, wait a minute. Like 200,000 people say they were there. It's
I know, right?
There's no way you were there. But anyways. Boy, we really got deep into that one, didn't we?
That was a fun Friday deep dive.
The
good morning, everyone.
Internet was starting to become more and more of a thing, and I think Remember, Oregon had the Oregon Duck back then, Donald Duck, on a handshake deal.
Walt Disney in a cool photo.
The only thing they had was the president of the University of Oregon and Walt Disney shaking hands. That's it. That's all. And
what
then
were they shaking hands about is the question.
And then they created this. There became essentially a rule of like, all right, you can still have Donald as your mascot, just can't sell it outside of the state of Oregon. Can't. Well, guess what? Oregon became obsessed with in the late 90s and then early 2000s, a thing called a national brand. And they couldn't sell the Donald Duck logo. So the people at Nike were like, what if we start trickling in a new mascot? What if we just... And it wasn't even named Roboduck. The thing's name was Sir Drake of Autzen. I will never forget that. It was Sir Drake of Autzen. And they were like, no. Donald's not going anywhere. This is just a buddy. And it were because the whole point was to phase out so that they could have this new duck that they could sell nationwide and promote on the internet. And the fans did not like it at all.
How long did he last?
He lasted into basketball season. I vividly remember. God,
I'm looking at a picture now. God, it's bad, man.
That season, Oregon played Kansas in at now Moda Center, then Rose Garden. I think it used to be called the Far West Classic.
Oh, yeah.
And it used to be Oregon and Oregon State. Then it just became Oregon. And Oregon was a pretty good basketball team that year. And they played Kansas. And here comes Drake. And he just got booed out of the building. And I think that was when they're like... And then he tried to do a trampoline dunk
and crashed,
somersault, right? And he hit his head on the rim. Head goes flying. It was all bad. It was all bad.
I found the picture, Justin, on the internet of him coming out of the egg.
Yeah.
That must have been something to see. It looks like they invited a whole bunch of media on the field.
They did.
Were you on the field for that?
I was not media then. I was a fan then.
Okay.
And by the way, that game, Oregon's getting torched.
Oh, really?
They're getting torched.
Oh,
Fans
no.
were not feeling it. NBA schedule, huh? Yeah, we got to November. But other stuff we want to dive into. Is Tom Brady once again hinting at a comeback? Or is this just his fun little game to do when he gets bored? I want to talk about that, some other NFL stuff coming up next, 620 Rip City Radio. Hey, Rip City Radio. Ooh, whoa, that one came in real hot there, didn't I? Hey, Rip City Radio wants to take you up to the ball game. That's right. Head over to the contest page at ripcityradio.com for your chance to score a pair of tickets to each game of the weekend homestand with the Seattle. Did I say homestead? I meant homestand. When the Seattle Mariners take on the Texas Rangers, September 13th through the 15th at T-Mobile Park. Plus, 2 nights at Hotel 5. It's a Stay Pineapple Hotel with out-of-the-ordinary hotels in extraordinary locations. Enter today at ripcityradio.com. And remember, it is not too late to plan a trip to Seattle for a Mariners game this season at T-Mobile Park. Tickets, schedule, and all the information, visit mariners.com. All right. I remember very much so sitting in my cramped apartment at the time and dealing with what was supposed to be a 2 weeks to stop the spread, and it quickly turned into a month, turned into 2 months, turned into an awful lot of times of like, we just can't go outside, and if you do, be very, very careful. And sports weren't happening, and we got The Last Dance. And we all, as sports fans, because we had a thirst and a need and something to hold on to, treated The Last Dance as if it was an actual real game. 2 hours, once a week. There was a pregame show. There was a postgame show. We analyzed like the 1992 season as if it was happening right in front of us. And it was a crazy time in the sports world. And then after we kind of came out of the fog of COVID and started actually playing sports, Brenden, people started rewatching The Last Dance and started going like, boy, at that time it seemed kind of interesting. Now looking back, like, boy, Michael Jordan, really petty and kind of intense, and it took it personal. And he took it personal that Clyde Drexler dared to even think he was on the same level. That's all I needed. I took it personal. When George Karl didn't say hi to me at dinner, I took that personal. He made up a story about, what's his name? LaBradford
Smith.
LaBradford Smith. He made up a story about, and you're like, man. And then I vividly remember watching that going like, yeah, Michael Jordan's kind of sick, because I think that's what it takes. That's what it takes to be able to get to that level, to be even in the greatest of all time discussion, let alone be what I believe is the undisputed greatest of all time. You got to kind of be a little bit sick. You have to create petty arguments. You have to create rivalries that aren't even there. And that's the mentality you have to get into. Go back and watch HBO's documentary on Tiger Woods, pre-car wreck HBO documentary on Tiger Woods. Tiger Woods was kind of sick in terms of his crazy hyper focus, and it ultimately unraveled on him, and then it came back. But what it took to become as great as it takes a mindset that I don't think normal people can comprehend. Now, why am I bringing all this up? There is this video of Tom Brady. We're going to play this video. There has been a reaction to it that I think is fair, but there's another part of it that I think people are missing. I think is this Instagram or
Instagram, Twitter, I don't know, some social media.
And it's him on vacation, looking good. And
when does Tom Brady not look good?
The long hair Tom Brady was a bad look.
Oh,
you got to admit that. Tom Brady, long hair, dancing at Carnival in Rio. Remember that video? Remember that video that was, I think it was on Vine? Not a good look. Got to admit, that one was bad.
Well, normally I would agree with you, Justin, but as someone who is actively in the long hair game now.
You're back? You're coming back? Is the mullet coming back?
Well, I haven't gotten my hair, quote, cut since December.
All right. So you're going to bring the mullet back?
No,
I don't know. You wear a hat every day.
Yeah, no, this more just like long everywhere.
Okay.
Like, it just kind of goes like everywhere at the moment.
Well,
But
I will
yes.
say, of the Tom Brady looks,
But yes.
the long hair was not the good one.
No, but yeah, so I respect it, but in normal times, normal circumstances, I feel you, Justin.
All right. So in this video, Tom Brady's on vacation. I don't know, probably some exotic location on a gajillion-dollar boat. But there's a narration over this video, and this is what Tom Brady had to say.
So you're just flexing for social media these days.
I just want to make sure all those young bucks in the NFL know that if I still wanted to come out of retirement,
All the way out. Go way out, way out.
they still got something to deal with.
So everybody saw that,
Yes.
heard that, and is like, "What is Tom Brady hinting at a coming?" I don't think he is, but we're gonna play a hypothetical where maybe he is. I don't think he is. Here's what I think he is. He, like Michael Jordan, like Tiger Woods, he's a little sick. He's a little sick. And Tom Brady basically just said, "Hey, anybody in the NFL other than Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers, if I want your job, I could have it." If I want your job, hey, Brock Purdy, you are about to get paid and you were just in the Super Bowl. Just so you know, if I want your job, I could have it. I had a friend one time. Incredibly good-looking, charismatic friend I had. Not going to say his name, but I had and he was kind of sick too, where he basically was like, if I just go and hit on the girl that you like, she's coming with me. And he knew it. And he would
We all have a friend like that.
Yeah.
We do.
Now imagine Tom Brady
I can't tell you how many times.
talking about your job, going like, hey, you're an NFL quarterback. That's cute. Just so you know. He even said, let all those young bucks know, if I want your job, I could have it. And that's just, I don't know if anybody in the NFL is looking over their shoulder, but in his mind, he's like, just so you all know, I may be in my 40s. I may have my retirement and a gajillion-dollar contract with Fox, and I'm going to be on TV. But if you and I were on the same team, you would be holding a clipboard, and I would be on the field. That's kind of sick.
At 47 years old.
But
that's
the sickness that you have to have. That's the sickness of making up a story about LeBradford Smith. That's the sickness of, like, Tiger Woods, Tiger Woods, like, there was a story of Tiger Woods to intimidate Phil Mickelson, purposely drove with a 3-wood when they were paired up to prove that he could hit it longer with a 3-wood. Like, that's the sickness that you have to have. Because think about what, like, Tom Brady, you are the undisputed. I don't even think, like, okay, Patrick Mahomes is on the way, but he's still got four more rings to get to even come tie you. Your legacy is cemented. You have all the money you could possibly want, but you still got to just be like, hey, just so you know, if I wanted your job, I could have it.
Yeah, I mean, it reminds me a little bit of
what a sicko.
I think you might,
and I say that as a compliment.
Yeah, for sure. No, I think you, obviously, Justin, you're one of the biggest Michael Jordan fans I know. I think you might have been up in Seattle, but do you remember when he had turned 50 and that narrative was like, oh, Michael Jordan could come back in the NBA at 50 and play?
Yeah.
Like, it was 10, 11 years ago now. But I remember I was in high school and everyone's like, Jordan at 50, and you're like, could Michael Jordan at 50 probably have still gotten buckets?
Yeah, he could have gotten buckets.
Yeah. And it's like,
he would have, like,
if the injuries would have caught, like, it wouldn't have. Same with Brady.
He would have played like twice a month.
Yeah, but like, Justin, if you're talking one game, how many quarterbacks would you really take over Tom Brady?
Well,
one game, baby.
Well, we're gonna play this game now because, like I said, it's him saying, like, if I wanted your job, I could take it. We're gonna go through these NFL teams. How many of these teams, with their current quarterback situation, would take Tom Brady right now? How many of these? We're eliminating, clearly, the Chiefs. The Chiefs are not going to take Tom Brady. They wouldn't take Tom Brady if they wanted to. We're going to eliminate the Bills. We are going to eliminate the Bengals. We are going to eliminate the Chargers. We are going to eliminate the.
How do you feel about the Jets?
We're going to eliminate the Jets.
Okay, cool.
Well, okay, wait a minute. If you were the Jets right now, you could have Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers. 47-year-old retired Tom Brady. Or Aaron Rodgers, who I think is like 41. Might be younger than that.
Or 40?
40. 40-year-old Aaron Rodgers
Yep.
coming off of an Achilles injury.
Yeah.
Who would you take?
I'd take Brady, but that's my bias coming out there. I mean, if you're a Jets fan, you go Brady. Everywhere Brady's been, he's got a Super Bowl. That's a small sample size, but it's like, yeah, you want to guarantee? Get you Tom Brady.
Now, I will answer that question about week 3.
Fair
Because
enough.
I'd like to see Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's not as cut and dry as you think. All right, you want to get weird?
Let's get
Baltimore
weird.
Ravens.
No,
You
I don't
think
think
they're
yeah, I don't think they would.
okay? So
Good pull though.
let's now go. Let's go to the bottom. Carolina Panthers clearly.
Cleveland, would they trade?
Cleveland,
Give up to Sean?
without a doubt, the Cleveland Browns, if they could have Tom Brady at 47 for one season, they clearly would. Miami Dolphins.
Well, they wanted him once before, so
Yeah,
I would say.
but
yes.
that was 4 years ago. 4 years later,
they just paid Tua, so let's say no, since they just paid Tua a gazillion dollars.
would you take the cap hit? Take the cap hit,
To cut Tua.
cut Tua, and Tom Brady comes in league minimum.
Tyreek Hill and Waddle and that. I mean, that would be fun to
Would
watch.
the Dolphins be better with
They would be-
47-year-old retired Tom Brady or Tua Tagovailoa?
I think they would be better with Tom Brady.
We might be being very disrespectful to all these quarterbacks, but I don't care. This is a fun conversation. And I'm not a Tom Brady stan like Brenden is, and there's nothing wrong with that because I'm a Michael Jordan stan. But
Would your Steelers take him?
yeah,
Yeah.
for one season. One season?
Yeah, 1 year. Mike Tomlin's like, yeah, let's do it, Tom. Let's get another one.
Yeah. So Mike Tomlin, it's interesting because Chuck Noll has 4 Super Bowls, right? And he is a Pittsburgh Steeler legend, won 4 Super Bowls in the 70s, and essentially created the Steel Curtain, created the great Steeler dynasty. Then they had, why am I forgetting his name? Before Mike Tomlin, they had
Bill Cowher.
Bill Cowher. Talk about a brain
Yeah,
cramp.
trust me, folks. Justin's the biggest Steeler fan I know. It must just be
Brain
a Friday little.
cramp.
The wires didn't quite connect.
Well, I'm
there.
looking at Mike Tomlin on TV
It's
right now.
true, yeah. Like Justin, come on, they've
Then
had
they
what,
had Bill Cowher, and Bill Cowher was good, but then it was always like, and then they lost a Super Bowl in the 90s to the Cowboys, and then there was like and then finally, sorry Seahawks fans, got that one Super Bowl.
They're still salty about that. Be careful, Justin, from what I've heard.
Dude.
05 is recent memory, man. They've won one since, but 05 still hurts, apparently.
So Bill Cowher then kind of cemented his legacy, got his Super Bowl. Mike Tomlin did as well, but he got it early and never had a losing season. But Steelers are like, we play for Lombardis. We don't play for division titles, play for Lombardis. And I think Tomlin, if you would give him like truth serum and be like, look, you can get one more because you got a Super Bowl loss in there. Right now, he's like the same as Tomlin. Got a Super Bowl win, Super Bowl loss, and a handful of really good but not Super Bowl caliber seasons. You can have Tom Brady for one season. I think he'd be like, yeah, I'll take him. Yeah, I'll take him. So there's the AFC North. I think the entire AFC South would take him, including the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yeah, probably.
The entire AFC South would take him. Broncos, yeah, one season. Again, it's one season. Raiders, he might play for them. If there was a team that I would be like, Tom Brady is hinting at a comeback, what team is he going to come back for? It's going to be the Raiders, the team he owns part of. Now, I don't know what the rules are.
Yeah, I don't know either.
But Chiefs, no. Chargers, no. Eagles. That's a tough one. Because Giants, yes. Commanders, yes. Again, this is one season.
Cowboys. Jerry's Jones is
we're
like,
gonna get
oh
over-
my goodness,
Hold on,
Tommy.
let's do the Eagles first before we do Cowboys.
I'll say yes for the Eagles.
Yes, for the Eagles, they would take Tom Brady.
Hey, Jalen, you're going to be you got a little knee thing? Yeah, we're going to get you knee surgery. You're out for the year. Tom's coming in for 1 year. We'll circle back to you next year.
It's going to be an interesting year for the Philadelphia Eagles.
It will be.
They're kind of not quite to Russell Wilson, Seattle Seahawks, Pete Carroll territory, but they're on that path where Jalen Hurts is tuning out as head coach, and his head coach might not be as diplomatic as Pete Carroll was in Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
Zig Sirianni's kind of crazy. So there's an impasse coming, and if the Eagles aren't good this year, oh boy, look out. Jerry Jones would take Tom Brady in a heartbeat over Dak, right? And I think Dak
Dak's a good player, but he's not Tom.
I think Dak gets unfair criticism because he's a Cowboy, and if you don't win the Super Bowl with the Dallas Cowboys, you're essentially trash. And it's the team that is talked about more and more than any other team in the league because there's a reason why they're valued at $10 billion because they have the biggest fan base. That being said, Jerry Jones, who is a master marketer, also created the Cowboys into a $10 billion company. How about them Cowboys? He would never pass up a chance to get Tom Brady on that field for one season.
Your valuation,
wearing that star on his helmet. Bears, yeah. Vikings, definitely. Packers?
They might stick with Jordan Love. That's interesting.
They got rid of Aaron Rodgers for Jordan Love.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And I think Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, kind of similar
Skill
level of skill set.
Yes,
And they gave up Aaron Rodgers for Jordan Love.
I mean,
And
really,
to Jordan Love's credit, took him to the playoffs last year.
yeah, if we're getting down to the nitty-gritty of it, the only couple things that separate Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers are the Super Bowl success because the statistics are pretty similar.
Yeah.
What they can do on the field, similar. And then, Tom Brady isn't quite as, how do I say this, kooky with the things he says.
Well, Tom Brady
He's calculated.
like in the Jordan, again, going back to the Jordan Tiger Woods, we're not going to offend anybody.
Yes, big
Whereas
time.
Aaron Rodgers is like, I don't care.
It's true.
I don't care who I
don't
offend.
care.
As a matter of fact, I'm going to try to offend as many people as possible.
It's
like,
true.
hey, he's right wing. Like, no, he's not. They don't like him either.
It's so true.
Detroit Lions, yeah, they'd take him. They would take him in a heartbeat. The Detroit Lions had 47-year-old Tom Brady. Would they be better with him or with Goff?
It's probably close to a wash. Jared Goff's playing pretty efficient football in that offense last year, but you're still going to take the Hall of Famer who, again, in like a hired gun type year, is like, again, and for the sake of this argument, Justin, he is Kawhi Leonard when he left the Spurs, right? Just like hired gun, really good chance to get a championship. Boom, right?
The entire NFC South would take him. Saints,
Entire.
Bucks had him.
It's true. They'd be like, hey, we actually get him back first,
can
right?
we get him back? And Baker Mayfield's good, but Bucks would be like, we'll take Tom Brady. Falcons, yeah. Panthers, yeah.
Poor Penix would be like, I'm third string now, guys.
Seahawks, Cardinals, definitely.
Oh, Tom Brady in a
Well,
Seahawk uniform?
yeah.
Ooh, that'd be fun.
Rams.
Yeah, they would. Even though Stafford just won a title. Stafford's got
Okay.
those injury problems, man.
All right, I saved this one for last on purpose. 49ers.
They would.
49ers.
They would.
Would Kyle Shanahan,
If I
would
was
Kyle
on the Niners,
Shanahan
they
and
would.
John Lynch go, because there's obviously always that one picture of Tom Brady wearing that 49er jacket, right? At the 49er playoff game. And did you know that he was there when they made the catch? Like, did you know that when Montana to
know.
Clark? Did you know? Because they never bring that up during the broadcast. Will the 49ers give up Brock Purdy? So basically, we're saying like 80% of the league.
Well,
For
here's
one
the-
season, would be
yeah.
more than happy to have Tom Brady on
Here's
their
the
team.
key with the Niners. It's desperation, right? Eventually, the patience doesn't pay off. They go, we had a taste with Garoppolo. We had a taste with Purdy. Brady gets over the top.
He gets us over the top. We are going to be back with our countdown to college football kickoff on campuses next. 620 Rip City Radio. Hey, Rip City Radio is keeping the Ticket Tuesday winning streak alive. Exclusive tickets to the Hillsboro Hops all season long. Listen to Rip City Drive each and every Tuesday afternoon for your chance to win. Get your Hops tickets now at hillsborohops.com. We are continuing our countdown to kickoff. The number is sitting at 15. We are 15 days away. By the way, tomorrow, last Saturday without college football. Till 2025. That's tomorrow, the last Saturday, because I believe even in the December lull, we get bowl games and the college football playoff and get the Army-Navy game. So last Saturday, without college football tomorrow, get it in.
Can I
get in all your chores? Get in chores like I'm talking to children. Do you have chores as an adult, or do you have chores? Seems like something you would give children to do.
I wouldn't say chores, just responsibilities around. Taking out the trash,
like,
putting it in the.
Yeah, I got stuff to do at home. I don't know if I would call them chores. That feels like something like a child would do.
It does. Yeah, I'd say just responsibilities. Just like I'm sure, your lovely wife is like, Justin, we got the honey-do list here and do and things to do around the house.
To her credit, she does not that's. We have stuff to get done.
Sure.
And we attack it, but it's not hey, you do this, you do, like a honey
list.
I don't like that term at all. not a big fan of that term. I don't think she would be either. Now, also to be fair, she is more successful and she makes the money, so I should probably. So I take care of a lot of stuff. Or I am kind of a house husband, which I am perfectly happy being. Anyways, that's neither here nor there. We're talking about college football. We have 15 days till college football starts in the great Willamette Valley. But tomorrow, Florida State will be taking on Georgia, or not tomorrow, a week from tomorrow is what I meant to say. Florida State will be taking on Georgia Tech. We head on campus right now. All right, this one kind of interesting. I know the Connor Stallions documentary coming out. There's also a docuseries that is going to be coming to Prime Video. Brenden, you're going to love this. It's called The Money Game, and there's a trailer for it. Prime Video is doing a docuseries on NIL. It's Shaquille O'Neal's an executive producer, but they're focusing obviously on a handful of college football players, but also Angel Reese is in there. Livy Dunn is in there. But it's going to be interesting to see how much are we going to know about how the NIL world works. That it's still kind of crazy to me that we've got an NIL in our lives for 2 seasons now? It's been a thing for, I want to say, 2 seasons of college football. We still don't know how it works. Are teams paying these guys directly? Some are. Are boosters paying these guys directly? Some are. Is there a market value? Is there an accountant? I know how scholarships work. You get 85 of them. Room and board, per diem. I know exactly how scholarships work. Isn't it kind of crazy? We've been doing NIL for 2 years now. I have no idea how it works. I've heard rumors, but we've not seen, in the NFL, obviously it's collectively bargained. We know how much money that Patrick Mahomes makes. We know.
Not with endorsements and all the other stuff. We know his base salary.
Yeah, but wouldn't you say some of the NIL stuff are base salaries?
Yeah, I mean.
They're being paid direct, whether it's Division Street there at Oregon or it is the whatever, build the damn right. Damnation, thank you. If Damnation that is a collective or Division Street that is kind of a marketing department are paying these guys, that's not an endorsement. That's a paycheck. You know what I mean? What if Damnation pays a player an NIL, which is perfectly legal, what exactly are they endorsing? Nothing. They're endorsing paying or playing football.
Yeah, I mean, with this, yes, Justin, I believe it because
is somebody ever going to do a deep dive expose into the financial? Somebody's got to be able to find the financials and the tax forms for these collectives, right?
Yeah, I mean, eventually some of it will have to come out. But no, like to answer your question, yeah, it does feel like that adjustment has been the longest 2 years of my life as far as like what has changed for my school as a result. There's not a day that hasn't gone by that I haven't thought about what if with NIL. So, I think it affects every school and every fan base differently. Really does.
I just wonder if we look into our crystal ball and go 3-4 years into the future, right?
Not a Mario crystal ball, right?
No,
just
no,
a
no.
crystal ball.
Heck, 6 years into the future, 2030. By 2030, that's how time works, bro.
Yeah, I don't need that shiver going down my
It's gonna
spine
happen,
again,
Brenden.
Justin.
Don't worry. I'll be in my 50s by then. I'll really be grumpy.
Yeah, it's gonna be a grumpy old man. Get off my lawn. It's gonna be great.
Really grumpy by then. Will we know exactly how much money quarterbacks are making? Will there be a SPO track for college football for NIL? Because they say the numbers, right? There are some sites out there that put numbers out there of this is their NIL worth. It's you don't know that. You don't know what their NIL number is because nobody's disclosing it. Are they going to have to ultimately disclose it? I'm fascinated by it because right now it's an above ground, underground hybrid market. It's above board because it's legal to pay the players. But Brenden, nobody's saying what they're paying them. Is there going to be some big name booster that's going to come out and be like, yep, I paid Jimmy Beckworth $4 million to come play for the Texas Longhorns. As a name I made up, by the way. I paid old Jimmy $4 million to come play for these Longhorns. Hook 'em. Is that gonna happen one day? It's got to, right? There's got to be some booster that's going to be like, I pay more NIL than everybody. Boosters used to brag about how much they donate and have a big check ceremony at halftime of a game. Thank you for your $14 million donation. It's going to go to this coach's buyout over here. When are they going to start bragging about how much NIL they pay?
If they haven't already in their private back room, cigar room.
We need it on Twitter.
When I think of big football boosters, I still have this 1920s image of these men in back rooms, smoking their cigars, having a cup of cognac. Here's the future of college football, baby. Oh, did you see how much I paid for Bo Nix last year? Well.
But the future of rich people is going to be my generation. And my generation, we like to say things on the internet. We just do. We like to say stuff on the internet. All right. There we go. There's On Campus. Coming up next, we have got Make or Miss. We've got stuff we saw on the internet. I got a list of top 10 quarterbacks per ESPN in college football, maybe some more NFL news and notes. Jam-packed hour number 2 next, 620 Rip City Radio.
7 a.m. on a Friday. Brenden Slaughter with you. The NBA released schedules across the league yesterday, and your Portland Trailblazers will open the season against the Golden State Warriors at Moda Center on October 23rd. NFL preseason Week 2 action last night saw the Philadelphia Eagles defeat the New England Patriots 14-13. The rest of NFL preseason Week 2 will continue on Saturday. And Chargers coach Jim Harbaugh says Colin Kaepernick won't join the coaching staff this season, but did not rule out a future role on the staff. Coming up on the big show, we'll talk to Brady Henderson in hour number 3 to catch up on some Seahawks and a whole lot more. Hour 2 coming up here on Rip City Mornings.
Hey, welcome back to Rip City Mornings, everybody. Hour number 2, 20 minutes from now, we have got a make or miss. We also have stuff we saw on the internet. Oh, wait, are we doing a Hot Take Friday? We might do a Hot Take Friday. I forgot what day it was. I'm sorry. I started the week on a Tuesday. I didn't even open up Fancy Coffee Friday. We may do that because I still have plenty of Fancy Coffee left. Congratulations to all who celebrate Fancy Coffee Friday. We appreciate you all hanging out with us, whether it's just for a smidge of time on your way to and from work, or if you are hanging out with us all morning long. We appreciate each and every one of you. Heard this on a different show. I'm going to sample it. I'm going to remix it, and I'm going to then now, as they say, make it your own, which is another way we call stealing. But in radio, I've had my ideas stolen. I have stolen ideas. If your idea isn't being stolen, your ideas stink. So I heard this theory. I have talked for years, whether it was on this show or other shows I have been on. One of the things that makes college football great, but also makes college football so incredibly frustrating, is you are dealing with kids. They look like full-grown adults. They play like full-grown adults, but they have the emotional maturity of 19, 20, 21-year-olds. Think back to when you were that age. How emotionally mature were you? How could you handle certain pressures being thrown at you when you weren't even playing big-time football, unless you were a big-time football player in our listening audience? That's pretty cool. And it's why I think Pullman, Washington in the old Pac-12 was always the toughest place to play. Why? It's really hard to get to. As dumb as that sounds, those little variables can throw teams off.
So I learned this too. Oregon State and Washington State, Justin, are the only two schools where the opposing school does not stay in town in the Pac-12.
Yes.
So Pullman, obviously, like you said, a lot more remote, but I've been covering the Beavers for years. There's never any room in Corvallis for the opposing team.
No. You got to stay in Spokane.
Or Spokane or Oregon State, Albany, or sometimes Lebanon.
I think actually I know USC used to always stay in Eugene.
Or Eugene, or Eugene.
When they would play in Corvallis, so they would stay in Eugene. They'd be there at the Valley River Inn.
And you know that road.
Shout out to the Valley River Inn. But think about, like, as I've talked about it before, imagine you were a USC football player and you were from Los Angeles, and all you have known in your life is Los Angeles, and then you are making your first trip to Corvallis. Maybe it's your freshman, maybe it's your sophomore year. And you fly into the Eugene airport and you get on that bus and you go out of the airport and you take a left. Now, I've driven up and down 99 between Eugene and Corvallis more times than I can count. Now, imagine you're a city kid from L.A. and you are driving through Monroe.
Home of the Dragons.
Home of the Dragons. You are driving. First, you hit Junction City, the home of the Tigers.
And many connections, but most famous got to be Justin Wilcox, right? Or the Wilcox family.
The Wilcox family.
Yeah.
I mean, Dave Wilcox went to Vail. He's the 541 guy. He's in the Hall of Fame. That's what we do in the 541. Went to Vail, played at Oregon, then was a Hall of Famer with the 49ers. settled down in Junction City, and then Josh and Justin started a dynasty in the 90s when I played with the Junction City Tigers. But you imagine you're like a kid from LA playing for USC, and you're like, where the heck? And I don't think they would say heck.
No.
Are we playing? Where are we playing? That's got to be just so weird. Imagine. Have you ever been to Pullman?
I have not had but I've been to Spokane, Omak, lots of areas up there in Eastern Washington.
But you've never been to Pullman.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Yes.
It's weird to get
you can't fly to it, really.
Now I don't know why that would affect your football, but I think sometimes it does, where you're just like,
guys are routines, right? They don't want to sit on a bus.
Not only that, but just like you got to be fascinated. Like I said, drive through Junction City and Monroe and then cornfields and grass seed fields, because, Lynn County, grass seed capital of the world. Don't know if you knew that.
My allergies do every time I pass it.
But just imagine you make that trip, or maybe even you go on I-5 and then you take a left. What is it? 228, I believe, is the exit there. You get exit 228 and is it 38?
Yeah, Highway 34.
34.
Yeah.
Hey, take Highway 30. You got to be like, where are we playing football? There's no way there's a stadium anywhere near. And then you come up over the bridge, take a light, you get onto Western, and boom, and there you are. There's Research Stadium. But it's got to throw you for a loop.
Oh, it does.
So the reason I bring this up is the Pac-12, Pac-10, Pac-8 was a 100-year-plus institution. Every team knew, and even if you had new coaches, you had support staff, you had athletic departments, you had boosters. Every team knew. They knew how to travel to Cal. They knew how to travel to Arizona State. They knew how to travel to Pullman. And even then, it would get a little bit weird. Are these Pac-12 teams that are going to be traveling to Stillwater and traveling to Lubbock and traveling to Ann Arbor and traveling to Madison? Is this going to be a major advantage for the established conference teams? Or is there going to be maybe some back and forth? Because, like Purdue doesn't know how to travel to, well, I guess it's a non-conference game, but Illinois is coming out to Eugene. Like Illinois, they're going to be okay. They know how to travel to Bloomington.
Just trying to think of in this case, Justin, I think it's only going to let's specifically look at the Big Ten.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where I'll need your help because I don't know all of them, but it has to be somewhere like Pullman where it's like, hey, even when you fly in, you're still an hour away. So that's why I would go, Rutgers. But I would guess New Jersey to Piscataway is not very it's all in one. Now Penn State, for example,
kind of in the middle of nowhere. You got to fly into Pittsburgh.
How you get to Penn State?
I think you fly into Pittsburgh.
And then what? An hour and
hour to maybe 2 on a bus. I don't know. But think about this. The other part of this that I found very interesting. If you've ever been to Tucson and the reputation, shall we say, that Arizona fans have.
2 hours and 45 minutes.
2:45.
From Pittsburgh to State College, man. So I don't know if there's a closer airport.
Tucson, Arizona has got a pretty decent reputation of some rowdy fans, shall we say. The Zona Zoo, for a good chunk of time there, they were out of control. And, the good coaches in the Pac-12, you prepare your team for hey, or playing Stanford this week. Guys, it's going to be a library. It's going to be a library. We got to create our own juice. You have decades and decades and decades of experience as an institution, as an organization. And I might be nitpicking here, but again, you have decades of experience of when we go to USC, we know what to expect because we've been doing it for 80 years. When we go to UCLA, we know that the Rose Bowl is going to be half full and traffic's going to stink. But we know that. We can prepare our guys for it. I'm wondering, there might be some weird stuff going on in college football, especially with some of the top-tiered teams. And am I talking about my worry of my beloved Oregon Ducks? A little bit. Where you you are kind of going into the unknown. Oregon's playing at Wisconsin this year. Or last time Oregon played at Wisconsin was 2000. We talked about it earlier this morning. They lost. Now, I'm sure when Michigan plays Wisconsin, they know what to expect because they've been doing it for 100 years. Is there a trophy game between Michigan and Wisconsin? I don't think so. I know the Little Brown Jug is Minnesota and Michigan. I don't know if there is. When Ohio State goes to play Penn State, they know what to expect.
Don't believe so, no.
No trophy game there. It's probably the one game that doesn't have a trophy attached to it. And then even in the Big 12 with, I know that Utah, Colorado used to be in the Big 12, but Utah, Arizona State, now you got to figure out, what do we expect when we go to Oklahoma State? What is to be expected to go play in Manhattan, Kansas? What is to be expected in Ames, Iowa? It's one thing that, you have these non-conference games and you go kind of on the true road games every once in a while. Oregon to Texas Tech last year, things like that. But now these are conference games. I don't know. It was a fascinating discussion to think of, there's going to be an adjustment period. And now maybe Oregon has the talent to kind of overcome that. But
in probably 90% of the games, that will be true.
There's going to be an adjustment for UCLA. There's going to be an adjustment for USC. There's going to be an adjustment for Washington. There's certainly going to be an adjustment for Cal and Stanford. How do we travel to Durham? We don't know.
But
how do we travel to Chapel Hill?
Well, in reversely, Justin, at least those schools that we're talking about, they know how to get to LA because Deshaun Foster said they're in LA.
They are. Right, LAX. And then you get on the 210 or the.
We're in LA. One of the two teams.
You don't know that if you don't know much about us.
The greatest.
We're in LA.
Greatest media.
One of two teams.
Cold open, man. Just yep. I said what I said. Let's do it.
I will give him credit. He came out the first practice afterwards and said, we're in L.A., made fun of it, laughed about it. He even laughed about it the next day. He's like, oh, yeah, social media is going to get me on that one. Tried a joke, felt like a lead balloon. I've done that so many times. I just didn't do it on that big of a stage. All right, we've got Make or Miss coming up. We have got some Hot Take Friday. But speaking of travel, hey, Rip City Radio, we want to take you up to the ball game. That's right. Head over to the contest page at ripcityradio.com for your chance to score a pair of tickets to each of the weekend homestand when the Seattle Mariners take on the Texas Rangers September 13th through the 15th at T-Mobile Park, plus 2 nights at Hotel 5. It's a Stay Pineapple hotel with out-of-the-ordinary hotels in extraordinary locations. Enter today at ripcityradio.com. And remember, it is not too late to plan a trip to Seattle for a Mariners game this season at T-Mobile Park. For tickets, schedule, or more information, visit mariners.com. Make or Miss next, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, in 1 hour from now, we're going to talk some Seattle Seahawks. They are in Nashville right now, getting ready to take on the Tennessee Titans for this is the second. I think it's the second preseason game. This is week 2 of the NFL preseason. Hall of Fame game threw me off, but Brady Henderson's in Nashville. Covered a joint practice. Shocker, got a little chippy, but get his thoughts on about halfway through training camp from Mike McDonald. And where the Seahawks are sitting in terms of quarterback battle, which it sounds like there's not much of a battle now that Geno Smith is healthy and heading into the second half of training camp. So that's coming up in an hour from now. We also have a Hot Take Friday coming up in a bit as well. Right now, let's get to Make or Miss.
All right, we're going to start Make or Miss with something that saw on the internet recently that I think
love talking about stuff we saw on the internet.
Is pretty out there.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? For somebody who his ego can't be contained, and we're talking about Deion Sanders in this case. No, Deion, you're not a better athlete than Bo Jackson.
Okay. Question.
No, he didn't say
question.
this.
Question. How did this come about?
So someone put it on Twitter, and then it was just one of those that exploded. It was like, who was the better? I don't even think it was really a famous account or anything. I think it just literally exploded because people had such strong opinions. Like, Deion, stick to your commercials and trying to fix the buffs, man.
Okay, but let's get into the argument here of truly who was the better athlete, because it does get very, very interesting. Bo Jackson is all myth. Now, again, I was there. See, this is the problem with Bo Jackson. It was a fairly short career because of injury, but for those that saw it with their own eyes will be like me and swear there is no greater athlete of all time ever than Bo Jackson. But it's all myth because unlike all the other debates, whether it's Jordan, whether it's Brady, whether it's Tiger Woods, whether it's all those guys we talked about in hour number 1, whether it's even LeBron, Brenden, where do we always go to with those guys when we start talking about the greatest? What do we talk about? We talk about rings. Bo doesn't have any rings. He doesn't have any championships. He doesn't hold any records. He doesn't have a gold jacket or a plaque in Cooperstown. He's not in a Hall of Fame. He's not an all-time record holder. He had
Does have a Heisman though.
Does have a Heisman.
So I'll say that.
He's got a Heisman. So I have always said Bo Jackson was the best, right? He was the best. You go and you look at what he did. Like, he set high school track records. He was one of the best college baseball players his freshman year at Auburn while also participating on the track team. Like, he ran track and played baseball in the same season at Auburn. Auburn was just like, you don't need to practice. Just show up for the track meets, run the 100, and then go back and hit baseballs, and then won a Heisman Trophy and played at the highest level. Now you got Deion Sanders. I believe Deion Sanders also ran track at Florida State and played baseball at Florida State and was an All-American at Florida State. Didn't win the Heisman because defensive players don't win the Heisman. Now, and I'm separating art from artist. To me, player Deion is way different than Coach Prime. So I'm separating the two. It's my show. I can. Brenden, I think Deion might have been the better athlete. Here's my reasoning behind it, and I love Bo Jackson. But Deion Sanders is a Hall of Fame football player. Bo Jackson never made the Hall of Fame. Now, he didn't play long enough to make the Hall of Fame, but now Bo Jackson was a Major League All-Star. I do not believe Deion Sanders ever made a Major League Baseball All-Star team. So Bo Jackson was an All-Star back when All-Star selections mattered.
He is also the only player in Major League history to have 2 in 2 different sports.
to be an all-star and a Pro Bowler.
Yes, in 2 different sports.
When Pro Bowls actually mattered back then, too. Wasn't like the Pro Bowl is today. Deion's got a championship. He's got a couple. He's got one with the 49ers. I think he's got 2 with the Cowboys. Deion's got rings. Deion's got a Hall of Fame jacket. Deion played both sides of the ball. Bo Jackson was an unbelievable running back. And I'm pretty sure no one would have ever thought to let Bo Jackson play defense, nor would they ever want him to play defense.
Deion's only got 2 rings.
He's got 2. Well, okay. Well, he's got 2 rings.
One with the, I guess that would
One
be.
with the Niners, one with the Cowboys, right?
Yes. Yep.
Brent, I think you got to give the nod to Deion just a bit. It's a fun argument.
It's actually kind of funny because
it's a fun argument because, like I said, Bo Jackson at his peak, I think was probably a better athlete, but Deion's in the Hall of Fame. Played both sides of the ball.
I was looking back at Deion's some of his younger stuff
played in a World Series
from Florida State, and Justin, it is like again not a surprise, but I've never really looked side by. It is uncanny how much Shedeur looks like Deion in college. Like, absolutely uncanny. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, that's why I lean to you. I didn't watch either one of these guys play, obviously. It's more just highlights. And, I've talked about Deion Sanders quite negatively a lot this week, Justin. He hates reporters, so I don't like Deion with that, like, in a joking sense. But,
well, he doesn't hate reporters. He doesn't like the guys who don't like him. You kiss his butt, he loves you.
Maybe.
Well, yeah, everybody at ESPN,
until
everybody at Fox Sports, like, you kiss his butt and talk about how great Prime is, he will be more than happy to be on your show. You at all say, hey, you won 4 games. So I don't know if you're quite Nick Saban yet. Well, then you are being disrespectful to him and his family and everybody else, and then he goes into a big old long thing. Anyways, I'm separating art from artist. We're talking about player prime time and Neon Deion.
I'll say this.
I think he might have been the better athlete.
He might be.
And here's the other part of it, and I concede, part of the Michael Jordan mythology is the Nike promotional push that he got. And Gatorade and McDonald's and everything else. He was pop culture. I'm wearing his shoes right now. That's part of Jordan's greatness is the promotional marketing push that he got. That might be part of it with Bo too, because everybody remembers who is my age remembers Bo knows. Hey, Bo knows tennis? There's John McEnroe, Bo knows hockey, Gretzky stopped and he goes, nah. The Bo knows thing also kind of led to the mythology of Bo Jackson, the legend of Bo Jackson, because that's all he is. It's all legend now. I think Deion might have been the better athlete. That's just my take as someone who was there. And I loved them both as players.
I'll say this: if you deserve to,
I don't think there's a wrong answer though.
If you deserve to get your butt kissed after a 4-8 season, might want to call up. I'm curious. Gary Anderson might have some words to say. I didn't realize we anoint a coach.
While we're talking about Deion, here's the other thing I'm wondering. I don't think Deion is on the hot seat. I saw a hot take on that the other day about, is Deion Sanders on the hot seat? No, he's not on the hot seat, but it is clear that he is going about trying to make Colorado relevant 2 different ways. A, smoke and mirrors with promotional, media, all that stuff. They are relevant. We talk about them more than any other team that is not Oregon and Oregon State. We do. And the other way he's trying to make them relevant is within the transfer portal. Everybody says, well, he went from 1-8 or 1-11 to 4-8. True, did that. But he didn't do it like Jonathan Smith did it. And I know you don't like Jonathan Smith right now, but you liked him back then. He built a team brick by boring brick because that's how
tore a whole bunch of them down on the way out.
you had to tore it down first and then brick by because building a team is kind of boring. And it doesn't Deion Sanders has made it clear that if you're not good enough, you're out and I'll bring in somebody new. He said that for the entire offensive line. Sometimes you got to play the offensive line, have them take some lumps, and maybe, I don't know, get them better. So my question is, if Deion's not building anything, if he's not doing the Jonathan Smith of like, we got to work on getting competitive, or heck, what's another rebuilding job that
Kenny
we have
Dillingham, Arizona State.
Yeah. Kenny Dillingham is like, we got to take our lumps, but.
And they did. That's why they were like, yeah, we'll take a bowl ban. We're going to suck anyway.
Well, Kenny Dillingham was mad about that, but his AD was smart and was like, well, let's take it right now. But it's like, we're going to have to build this thing from the ground up, and we're going to, we're going to transfer portal. Sure, that's silly to not do that. But we're also going to bring in, hopefully, good recruits, coach them up, and then we'll have a foundation. Whereas Colorado is not coaching them up. It's simply, who can keep my son from getting sacked so he can throw it to my favorite player in Travis Hunter? And if you don't win again, and then you don't have Shedeur and you don't have Travis Hunter on your team, and then you haven't built anything, how patient are the people of Colorado going to be? Now, again, he took them from nothing. Nobody ever talked about Colorado except for how terrible they were 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 5 years ago.
Hey, they still got a natty, though.
1990. Never forget. Never forget. It was shared.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same way we look at Washington, right?
I know.
Don James, early 90s, too. So,
but again, Washington, great example. Washington, Tyron Willingham, they were terrible.
0-12, baby.
Never forget.
And
then Steve Sarkisian came in, and they got better. And then they started, and then Sarkisian left, and then Peterson continued to build, but they built it up. Now, again, that was a different time, transfer portal. I'm just saying, if you are content with, hey, if you aren't getting it done, I'm going to replace you, and that's your in, out every single year, are you really building? Does that make sense? Oh, 4-8 from 1-11. Great. But you then took all your players that took you to 4-8 and you replaced all the guys that you didn't like. So, I don't know. It's just an interesting thought on Colorado. But here we are again talking about Colorado when nobody was talking about Colorado 3 years ago.
Yeah, I think they're going to suck again. I really do. And I hope they
I don't know if they're going to suck, but I think they're going to be mediocre.
And I hope, very much.
How hot does it get? They play the national semifinalists in the FCS, right? Is it South Dakota State?
Yeah.
On a Thursday night. 2 weeks, 13 days from now. On a Thursday, everybody's going to be watching it because it's Coach Prime. Boy, if they lose that game.
I think it's North Dakota State.
North Dakota State, one of them.
Yeah, and North Dakota State's number 2 preseason ranked team in
because South Dakota State is the number 1 team, I believe, right?
Oh, I think so.
And they're playing Oklahoma State, which watch out, Cowboys.
Dude, like of all the teams, Justin, I have to say, like South Dakota State's nickname, the Jackrabbits, one of the coolest in college football, man. Like I just think of South Dakota. I've been there once in my life, not much there, and been like
never been to. I don't think I've been to a Dakota.
You're not missing a whole lot.
You go to Mount Rushmore?
I did not go to Mount Rushmore.
Which all the way to South Dakota, did not go to Mount Rushmore.
Looking at you, Dad and Grandpa. So they thought, oh yeah, let's go out to South Dakota. Great pheasant hunting.
Pheasant hunting.
Which it was fine, but I'm like,
did you have a shotgun?
Oh yeah.
12 gauge?
Oh yeah. But in hindsight,
double barrel?
Single. No, single. But in hindsight, I look back and I go, guys, it was only 2 hours to drive to Mount Rushmore. I'll never go back to South Dakota. But nevertheless,
I've also heard it's like, meh.
There's
hey.
You can kind of see it in a picture.
You see it.
And get that's, call me crazy, Justin, but when everyone was freaking out about the Olympics, like, oh my gosh, I got to see Paris. I was like, I've seen the Eiffel Tower in pictures. Is that?
I think the Eiffel Tower is a little different.
Okay, fair enough. See, like, that's how I look at. Like,
Eiffel Tower, I think, is a little different.
You would look at it more than Mount, basically like our Mount.
Well, because I think you can go to the Eiffel Tower. You can go up the Eiffel Tower.
Right,
You might have to
that's
stand
fair.
in line for 3 hours. Mount Rushmore, you're in a parking lot, and you're like, there it is. They won't let you up there because idiots will fall off.
Hey, but in National Treasure 2, they let him up there, Justin.
They snuck up there.
Found the city of gold. I mean, that's where it is, man. So I don't know why no one has gone to claim that yet, but nevertheless. All right, enough distractions. Let's get to at least one more here on Make or Miss. The Blazers' schedule is perfect for Capture the Flag.
I guess
That was heavily stolen from Twitter from like 5 or 6 different people.
Okay.
But, Justin, let's
we're
capture the flag, baby. Let's go.
I have been a part of a handful of NBA schedule releases, and like I said earlier this morning, and if you weren't early enough, don't worry, I'll repeat it. A lot of times, Blazer fans, when the schedule comes out, they instantly go, all right, the NBA screwed us. Look what they did. And it's just so weird to, I think, kind of have the mindset of, yeah, we really don't care about the schedule. Don't really care about it. Hey, how many games? Doesn't matter. One TNT game, no Christmas. Don't really care. Let me make sure. I don't believe they play the day after Christmas against Utah on
But
NBA
just
TV.
one TNT game.
And that used to be, remember,
That was an indicator how good or bad you were going to be.
and it was Blazer fans screaming like, look at this, disrespect. This is small market. This is East Coast bias. And now like, all right. Now that hopefully they're going to be on free TV, who cares?
Yeah, exactly. I'm like with you. Like now that Root is gone, it's like breaking up with a bad girlfriend, man.
But it
You're
was
just like, I'm free.
No Christmas, no nationally televised. Look at this road trip. And now Blazer fans like, make it as tough as possible. Because we want Cooper Flagg. Make it as tough as possible.
I mean, and with that, Justin, like we talked, obviously, you talked with Kurt Heelan yesterday, and everyone who didn't listen to that, definitely check that out at ripcityradio.com. Great interview. But he mentioned something like, and you also mentioned in hour one, about how the Blazers might be too good to be absolutely terrible.
Mm-hmm.
So let's do one of two. What do you think is more likely? More likely we actually see one of these dudes who can impact winning moved relatively soon, or like you look at the schedule, Justin, I don't know if you have it in front of you. I
do have it in front of me.
I believe it's February where they kick off a ridiculously long road trip. Like 8 out of 9 on the road, or maybe it's March, but somewhere in that February-March window. And I just wonder if now, like maybe this year be earlier, where maybe the Blazers are...
They have February 8th through March 7th. They have 10 of 12 on the road.
Yeah. So
there
that...
it is.
I think
There's
that will
the
be
road
the
trip, and then including a 7-game road trip starting the end of February.
But yeah, that's where I think is the break point, where it's like
and that's right around
the
trade deadline.
Yep. So more likely that they trade someone now, or do you think that they'll be like, yeah, you have picked up knee soreness?
I think
you have
I think
plantar
they're gonna,
fasciitis.
Well, also the other thing is if they do ultimately want to trade some of these guys, we saw it with Malcolm Brogdon. They weren't going to play Malcolm Brogdon because if he got hurt, then you couldn't trade him.
Right.
So how many, if these guys if they do want to trade them, how many of these guys are going to be, like you said, knee soreness, but still be able to pass a physical? That's
because the way that the West shakes out, like Justin and I talked about, the fact that you play, just throw it out there. We'll assume he's healthy and in shape. The fact that you play Zion Williamson and Anthony Edwards, I think 6 times in your first, 18 games, Justin? Something like that? Yeah. And I think it's like 18 of their first 21 are against the West. Unless something crazy happens, they will not start off the season well at all.
Yeah.
And I just wonder if, maybe it's a rough start to the year, Justin. They either pull the plug or maybe it's like, Jeremy, we love you, man, but your knee looking a little wobbly. Let's go ahead and put you on the back burner until the trade deadline.
Real quick, and you may already know this, they have one TNT game Do you know which game it is?
Milwaukee.
Yeah.
Has to be. Yeah.
It's Milwaukee. It's Milwaukee at
Milwaukee at home, Milwaukee
home.
on the road.
Milwaukee at home. Because nobody
right.
cares about the Blazers play at Milwaukee. They care about Dame coming back to Moda Center
Yeah,
again.
that's I'm like, Justin, if I didn't know that, I think you would, like, that was a
It's like
guess.
there's one game on the schedule that other people will care about. And
Yeah.
so.
And credit to them. Oh, last thing real quick. Credit to them, too, because TNT last year, Justin, they know they got a good show. The Blazers played their best game of the season when they beat Dame here in Portland.
All right, we got to wrap up hour number 2 with a little Hot Take Friday next, 620 Rip City Radio. Hey, I want to let you know about our good friends at Lazy Boy. They've partnered with us for the annual Stuff the Bus School Supply Drive. That's right, now through August 19th. That's just around the corner, by the way. Donate a backpack and 10 miscellaneous school supply items to any of the 6 local Lazy Boy locations that include Salem and Eugene, and you will receive up to 25% off your Lazy Boy purchase. Some exclusions do apply. The Salvation Army will then distribute your donations to local families in need, and as always, we thank you for your generosity. Get more details on the community page at ripcityradio.com. Let's wrap up hour number 2. It's Friday, and I don't know about you. How is the temperature in the control room there? It is hot as Hades in here.
Great reference.
Thank you. Well, I want to say something else, but it's 7:47 in the morning.
Oh, no, I just appreciate I'm a big Greek mythology nerd over here, so I love that. No, it's actually very, very comfortable in here. I'm assuming that you're getting the sun.
But it's not as it's been sunnier. All right, behind the curtain stuff. Something happened in our building, and
something did happen for sure.
They had to do an update or a shutdown or something with the power, and we got bugs or something, not like actual bugs, but like technological bugs, because the elevators weren't working when we got into, which is fine. I don't mind taking the stairs, but
I was a little grumpy about it. Not gonna lie, I was fine when I went. I'm just like, have to climb up these 3 flights of stairs. Come on,
there is something to like when you expect the elevator and then that doesn't happen, and so you have to take the stairs, as opposed to like if you walk into a building, like I've lived in apartments where I live on the 3rd floor, there's no elevator, right? I've done that before, where it's like I got to take the stairs every day. That's not a big deal. But when you think the elevator is an option and then it doesn't show up, or like
then add in 5 in the morning.
You know how you go to you go to the airport and like the escalator's not working, and it's just like I gotta take the stairs. And just when you think it's like and it's like something about having to like pivot, and it's like here comes the stairs. Stairs I'm over and out. Now it's like thermostat's been a problem in this building since I've started working here. Thermostat's been a problem. It's a real problem today in this room in particular, because I don't know if the thermostat didn't get rebooted or what, but it is
in between segments. You might have to come in.
I'm doing hot, like the hot yoga version of sports talk radio over here.
Yeah, I'll poke my head in there in between segments, and we'll see how much different it is. I'd say it's just my normal temperature in here. Maybe a little warm.
Well, good for you. Maybe we'll switch. Maybe I'll be the producer of the last hour, and you'll sit in here.
Twice in 1 week.
I don't know. But speaking of hot, let's get to some hot takes. Now, I realize that some of my hot takes could also be my get off my lawn, grumpy old man things. But I don't think so on this one. Hot take. Bluetooth headphones stink. Bluetooth headphones are worse than what they replaced. Usually in the technology world, the thing that is new is usually better than what it replaced. The CD was better than the cassette. Sure, it skipped, but you didn't have to rewind. You could go from song to song. But yeah, it got a little scratched up, and you couldn't really play it in the car unless your buddy held the Discman exactly perfectly still, as opposed to a cassette tape, but you didn't have to rewind. The MP3 player was better than the CD. HD TV is better than standard def TVs. Technology usually better and better. Maybe it was something about my flight, but like the Bluetooth headphones. Brenden, what is the benefit of having them? What is the benefit of having them? They offer more problems than solutions. Have you ever had it where like one will like dump out, and all of a sudden you lose one Bluetooth, and it's like, all right, well, I got to plug them both into a thing. And then sometimes if you have like an iPad or a laptop and your phone going, one will kick one off to the other.
So my only question,
and it'll connect, and then it'll just disconnect out of nowhere. Or it'll then connect out of nowhere. The entire time, these corded headphones, They worked every time.
So
They worked every time. You plug it in. Don't have to charge them up. You plug it in. Works every time.
Your complaint resonates and makes sense. That being said, Justin, you don't have Apple AirPods.
No, I got Beats. Beats by Dre. It was Dr. Dre. He's never put out a
solid, but
Beats by Dre.
Like your problem, but like disconnecting, connecting. It's not a true, tried and true Apple product.
Is Apple doing this to me on purpose so that I will eventually cave and get their AirPods?
I mean, they're.
I call them earpods.
That's fair.
Kelly makes fun of me every time because she has AirPods and I've got Beats. Now the reason I have the Beats
is to work out, right?
Yeah, it's because I want to work out. And I want to run in them, and they got a little loop on the ear, and I got a weird shaped inner ear.
That's fair.
I got a weird shaped inner ear that AirPods or the old school earpods would always.
Right.
Ear headphones. I don't know if they were called earpods.
Yeah, I mean, like when I go to work out, that's about like because it's kind of funny. Like those are obviously AirPods that can fall. I felt comfortable a handful of times. I've taken those AirPods into a pool when they've been in my ear and I've been waist deep in a pool.
Mm-hmm.
The only time those AirPods have ever fallen out for me is when I'm doing like stuff that's like crunches or things like that at the gym, right? So, like when you're moving your head or, you know, and you start to sweat, that's the only time they've popped out of my ear. But, like, I get what you mean, though, Justin, because my AirPods will sometimes connect to my phone, connect to my laptop, but they're all Apple products, so they can switch pretty easily in between. And it's easy to go switch back, switch forth. So
I'm just saying, when I used to plug in headphones, they worked every time.
But you really miss chords? I hate that.
I don't miss chords. I got no problem with chords. I grew up with chords.
Like, this is an ugly look. Having this, like, chords?
I disagree. I don't think it matters.
So why? Like, it's just that's the youth in me, man. But I'm like, corded headphones.
Yeah, that is the youth in you. Every cord is bad. All right, cut the cord, cut the house phone, cut the headphones. I want no cords in my life. We were fine. All right, we lived with cords for a long, long time, and cords were just fine. Never did me wrong at all. And you know what cord never did? Kick me off of when I'm watching my movie on the flight and bump me off onto my phone. Then I got to worry about my movie playing out loud for everybody. All right, there we go. That did turn into more grumpy old man than hot takey. But either way, hour 3 coming up next, 620 Rip City Radio.
8 a.m. on a Friday. Brenden Slaughter with you. The NBA released schedules across the league yesterday, and the Portland Trailblazers opened the season against the Golden State Warriors at Moda Center on October 23rd. NFL preseason Week 2 action got underway last night and saw the Philadelphia Eagles take down the New England Patriots 14-13 in another matchup of backup quarterbacks. And over in the NFL, the Chargers and head coach Jim Harbaugh says Colin Kaepernick will not join the coaching staff this season, but didn't rule out a future role with the team. Coming up in about 20 minutes, we're going to catch up with Brady Henderson from ESPN.com, talk a little Seahawks. You've got Rip City Mornings, Hour 3.
It is Rip City Mornings. Happy Friday, everybody. We got Seahawks talk coming up in 20 minutes. As Brenden just told you, we have got an RCM mailbag coming up as well. We talked about the 100 best players according to ESPN, and I think On 3 compiled the quarterbacks, and so per ESPN, in their staff of college football writers, ranking all of the top 100 players in all of college football, we now have the quarterbacks and the quarterback top 10. And I'm not here to debate any of the people in the top 10, but I did find something kind of interesting. Here's the top 10. Carson Beck, number 1. Dylan Gabriel sitting at number 2, according to ESPN. Jalen Milroe at Alabama. Quinn Ewers at Texas. Shedeur Sanders at Colorado. Jalen Daniels at Kansas. Jackson Dart at Ole Miss. Noah Fafita at Arizona. Cam Rising at Utah. And then Cam Ward at now Miami coming in at number 10. And we've talked about the impact of the transfer portal in college football, and in particular with quarterbacks, because quarterback is the one position where you don't get to play as a backup, right? You could be a backup running back. You're going to get 9 carries a game. You could be a backup defensive tackle, and you're going to get plenty of snaps in the game. You're not going to be riding the bench. You're a backup quarterback. Like, glad Oregon went and got Dante Moore. I hope he only plays snaps where Oregon's up by about 40 and he hands the ball off the entire time, right? That's all I want to see of Oregon's backup. And so I understand that if you get beaten out and you are a backup quarterback, transfer too. You only got so many years of playing college football. You only got so many years of football in your life. Go to where you can play. But it has kind of created this quarterback market. But Brenden, I was looking at this top 10 list and I found something kind of interesting. Carson Beck, been at Georgia the entire time. Jalen Milroe, been at Alabama the entire time. Quinn Ewers, it was a weird thing with Ohio State. Don't think he ever went there, though, right? He committed to Texas, then changed his commitment, moved to Ohio so that he could get high school NIL, then went to Ohio State, then decided to go to Texas. But nonetheless, Quinn Ewers was at Texas last year. He never played at Ohio State, right? Or never did he ever enroll at Ohio State?
Yeah, he took 2 snaps in a game.
Okay.
So, yes.
Then came back home to Texas, hook him, and he's been at Texas now. He's going into his second year as a starter. Shedeur Sanders, obviously we know he transferred, but he transferred with his dad. So not exactly the traditional transfer quarterback. Jalen Daniels has been at Kansas the entire time. We know Jackson Dart played at USC, but he's been now at Ole Miss for 2 years. Noah Fafita played at Arizona last year, and Cam Rising transferred from Texas, but he's been at Utah for 14 seasons now? Cam Rising's been at Utah?
Oh, they're talking about Whittingham. No, Whittingham's like 40 years.
No, I'm talking about Cam Rising, though. Yeah. He's been there for about 14 of those years.
Yeah, for sure.
And then there's Cam Ward, which, like Dylan Gabriel, is going to be quarterback of a new team, new coach, new system. I think Dylan Gabriel's going to win the Heisman. I have bet money on him to win the Heisman, and I think he is going to have a fantastic year. I do find it very interesting, though, that of the top quarterbacks, excluding Cam Ward a little bit, he's the only one that is going to be taking snaps on a new team. There's this idea, there's this perception that there is this quarterback market, and it's true. I mean, you look at DJU is at Florida State. Now, he's obviously not in anybody's top 10. That's not a shot. That's just a reality. DJU's at Florida State.
Yes, Florida State. They might think he's a top 10 quarterback.
They might. Van Dyke, who was at Miami, is now, I believe, at Wisconsin. The guy who was at Kansas State just got named the starter at Ohio State. There is this quarterback carousel, but I do wonder, like, is there going to be something with either Gabriel or Cam Ward where it's like first year wrinkles to iron out? Now, here's the good news with Gabriel is he's played, I think, for 3 different offensive coordinators at 2 different schools, and now he's going to be playing at Oregon. And in college football anymore, like all offenses are kind of the same. This is one of the things I've complained about. Shocker, Justin's going to complain about some stuff. Even the teams like Michigan, like Stanford, like Penn State, that we are so used to, like Alabama used to be, where it was like, yeah, tough, in the trenches, Wisconsin. But Wisconsin's running the air raid now. Michigan, who obviously with Harbaugh, they took plenty of snaps doing the patty cake snap out of shotgun, which I hate. Can't we just say hut, hut, hike? I'm sure there's a reason behind it, but I hate the whole patty cake and then the fake patty cake on the, anyways. All the offenses are kind of the same in college football, it seems. There's certain teams that want to run the ball a little bit more. There are some teams that want to throw the ball a little bit. But there's no more like, hey, Texas runs the wishbone. Wisconsin runs the power eye. Florida runs the fun and gun. This team runs the run and shoot offense. This team runs the air raid. It's like, oh, everything's almost kind of a combination of Chip Kelly and Mike Leach.
Throwing Rich Rodriguez, too.
And throwing some Rich Rod, throw a little Rich Rod in there, but like, it almost feels like Mike Leach and the air raid and Chip Kelly and the spread, and they're just like, combine those two, and it's like, everybody's going to run this offense.
I mean, it's pretty true. And that was, I just want to make sure it wasn't anybody before. It was Rich Rod at West Virginia when that whole thing got started with Tavon Austin and forget their Pat White.
It was Pat White and Steve Slayton.
Pat White, man.
Yeah.
So good.
And Pac-Man Jones before that. I know he ended up playing defense in the NFL. I think Pac-Man did everything at West Virginia. But
that was my first, like because I'm pretty sure West Virginia had started to really get, like, cranked up on the spread. Like, when Oregon brought the spread, that's when I'm like, oh, I know what the spread is now because it's right in front of me for 12 games. Before that, like, again, Justin, I'm old enough to remember, Oregon had Kellen Clemens at quarterback. He couldn't move, right?
Well, no, see, Kellen Clemens' senior year in 2005, Oregon went to the Urban Meyer spread. So Urban Meyer at Utah adopted the truest form of the spread, which Chip Kelly took some stuff from, Rich Rodriguez took some stuff from, but it was Urban Meyer wanting to run power football, but knowing he doesn't have the guys, so he spread everybody out to create one-on-ones, and then kind of had these read options out of a spread formation. And he won a lot of games at Utah. Got Alex Smith, a number 1 overall draft pick, went to a Fiesta Bowl, beat Pitt, had an undefeated season, and then got a job at Florida, won a couple national championships. Then some other things happened, but nearly neither here nor there.
But yeah, all that.
Utah was the first when I like.
That's true. Utah was throw Urban in there too.
Urban Meyer did it, and then I will. even though Bellotti never admits this, I will say, I remember Oregon went and played, I believe it was 03. Oregon in 03 played against Utah, lost at Utah. Stupid Friday night game. And the next year, Oregon was bad. 04, Oregon was bad. And all of a sudden, Bellotti goes, we're overhauling everything. And he's like, we're running that spread. And he hired a guy named Gary Croton, who I believe was at BYU, right down the road from Utah. They both ran a version of the spread. And all of a sudden, Oregon spreading everybody out in shotgun with Caleb Clemens. I remember doing the postgame show. And people were like, quarterback's running too much. Can't run too much. And I'm like, this is the offense. This is what they're running. And then Caleb Clemens would break his leg because he did run too much. But that was the Utah 03 and then the undefeated season they had in 04 version of the spread. Boise was running versions of the spread. And you could kind of trace it back to Purdue with the Drew Brees part of it.
Got you.
And then there's Kentucky because Mike Leach kind of created the air raid at Kentucky. But, yeah, everybody kind of runs the same offense now, which is a hybrid of the spread and the air raid with the, a little power football sprinkled in there whenever you need it. But getting back to quarterbacks, I'm wondering. I know that Dylan Gabriel is coming in as an experienced guy, and from all indications from both his teammates and the coaches is that, boy, this guy hit the ground running. Everybody is so pumped that he's there. But I'm looking at these top 10 quarterbacks. They're all returning to their teams. It is the idea that, there are essentially quarterback mercenaries out there that, I think I'm using that word correctly, that are just, have arm, will travel. You need a quarterback, get me an NIL deal. Other than Dylan Gabriel, the rest of the top 9 are all guys returning to their teams. Number 3 on that list, Jalen Milroe. Fascinated to see what happens with that guy. There's no way Kalen DeBoer can run the same Washington offense that he had with Michael Penix with Jalen Milroe, right? He can't run that offense with Jalen Milroe.
He's got a lot of the same abilities. Like, Michael Penix didn't really run that much, and you got to remember.
But Jalen Milroe, like, Michael Penix was an unbelievable thrower of the football. Jalen Milroe couldn't throw. They didn't throw him the first month of the season last year.
Yeah, again, we now kind of know that,
I'm just saying,
Alabama,
I think if Alabama tries to run the same offense with Jalen Milroe that they were running with Michael Penix, good luck.
He did go,
good luck.
I guess criticisms are fair, but we're nitpicking a guy who went 11-2.
Oh, I'm not doubting his ability. I'm saying he's got to fit the offense.
And he threw for 3,000 yards and 24 touchdowns against 4 picks.
But I don't know. It's just my eyeballs in what I see with Michael Penix versus what I saw.
I think there's the potential.
I think good luck.
I think there's the potential to upgrade the offense as a whole because now Kalen DeBoer's going to have athletes he wishes he could have had at Washington. So we'll see. But, yeah, we'll see.
I don't know. Those receivers and that quarterback were pretty good. You know what I mean? All right, coming up, we're going to talk to Brady Henderson. He is in Nashville, but he covers the Seahawks. They're in Seattle. Hey, you know what else is in Seattle? The Mariners, because Rip City Radio, we want to take you up to the ball game. That's right. Head over to the contest page at ripcityradio.com for your chance to score a pair of tickets to each game of the weekend homestand when the Seattle Mariners take on the Texas Rangers. That's September 13th through the 15th at T-Mobile Park, plus 2 nights at Hotel 5. It's a Stay Pineapple Hotel with out-of-the-ordinary hotels in extraordinary locations. Enter today at ripcityradio.com. And remember, it is not too late to plan a trip to Seattle for a Mariners game this season at T-Mobile Park. For tickets, schedule, and more information, visit mariners.com. Brady Henderson from ESPN.com joins us next, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, tomorrow, 4 o'clock, Seattle Seahawks with their second preseason game of the season. They are in Nashville to take on the Tennessee Titans, and we're about halfway through the first training camp under new head coach Mike Macdonald. Joining us now, our good friend from ESPN.com from Nashville is Brady Henderson. Brady, how we doing, bud?
What's up, Justin? Howdy, I should say. How you doing?
And a tip of the cap to you too, Cowboy. How is Nashville? I saw you posted a little bit. I know you're there on a work trip, and I know you are a professional, and you put work and your work ethic above all else. But every once in a while, you gotta have a little bit of fun. What are the sights and sounds of Music City like?
Yeah, it is. It is like one of the live music capitals of the country, I would imagine. It's, even if you're – so Broadway is like the main street. I'm sure you can picture that if you haven't been. There's just bar after bar after bar after bar of live music and people just packed inside them. And this one that we went to last night had like 3 different stages. And the quality of live music is just very good. I mean, you hear these people and a lot of people come out of Nashville, like actual musicians come out of Nashville. And so you're like watching these people not knowing if, somebody you are watching might end up, actually making it to some degree. So it's really fun, really fun city, hot. The food is good. The music is great. And, it's been a fun time so far.
It is interesting because even in Seattle, where it's a fairly good music scene, but, in Seattle, Portland, you go to a bar, you sit there, maybe you're watching a ball game, maybe you want some wings or something, and all of a sudden it's like, yeah, we have live music tonight. First thought is, great. No. But Nashville, you might be watching a superstar.
Yeah, you might be watching Taylor Swift. You never know.
Also, they've got the hot chicken down there. Have you dabbled in the hot chicken?
I did. I tried some hot chicken a couple nights ago. Got uncomfortably full on hot chicken, and the rest is history.
All right. Let's talk some Seahawks. We're now about halfway through training camp. Have the Seahawks stopped fighting each other yet? They're done, right? They're done swinging helmets at each other and fighting each other for the most part. They're fighting other teams now?
You would think that they would be fighting other teams. I mean, that was like the safest bet that you could make, is that there would be at least a fight or two during the joint practices, just because that's typically what you see. I mean, they were already doing that themselves. They had the one training camp practice a week or so ago where there was 5 separate fights, and DK Metcalf, swung his helmet at a teammate, which I thought was a pretty wild thing to do. But anyways, and so no, but you also have seen the NFL really try to crack down on that in these joint practices, and the Lions and Giants both got fined. I think it was $200,000 apiece, and so that's something they didn't used to do, and now the NFL. I mean, I think at one point the NFL said, "Look, that's not really our purview," and then they started doing it, and so I think that was really a deterrent. And I think there was a clear intention from both sides that they were really going to try to avoid doing that. And I believe that they came together before the first practice. I believe it was the entire both rosters from both teams sort of gathered around the head coaches on one of the fields before the first day of practice. And I think the coaches really tried to hammer that to them that, hey, there's not going to be any fighting. Devin Witherspoon actually told us that Mike Macdonald told his team, that if you fight, you're going to play the entire preseason game. And then Mike Macdonald sort of denied that. But I don't know if Devin Witherspoon would have completely made that up. But, so you saw just a lot of it sort of get to that line of, they kind of lock horns, and there's a lot of trash talking and guys get in each other's face, but nothing that ever rose to the level of fighting.
Well, it's interesting because, Brady, it seems as though everybody in the NFL hates preseason games except the owners, because the owners get to sell tickets and sell hot dogs and sell beers and charge for parking. But the players don't like it. I guess maybe the coaches like it from an evaluation standpoint, but none of the players like it. So I've always been surprised that these joint practices happen, because it seems like you're just adding extra preseason games. Is it because they can control most of it and it's more obviously it's more structured than maybe an actual preseason game? Because I've always been surprised that they seem to hate preseason games, especially the starters, but they have these joint practices, which seems like they're adding extra preseason games.
Well, the idea with the joint practices is that you get the best of both worlds, meaning you get the best of a normal practice and a preseason game. So you get the live reps against another team, which is really good, obviously, for evaluation. And you sort of can see where you're at when you're playing against another actual NFL team. And then you get the controlled environment of a practice. And that's the one thing that you hear coaches talk about all the time, the quote-unquote controlled environment. Well, what does that mean? Well, I think one of the things it means is that your quarterback doesn't get hurt. Your quarterback doesn't get hit, because in these practices, it's the same as it would be in, when one team is just practicing against itself, where the quarterbacks are in the red jerseys, or in this case, the Seahawks are wearing the throwback jerseys, but they're in the non-contact jerseys. And so they don't get hit. And so which you can't control that in the preseason game. You can't agree with the other team that says, and say, hey, let's agree to not hit each other, in this preseason game. You don't really do that. So you really protect your quarterback in these joint practices in a way that you can't really do in a preseason game. And then the other thing is it allows teams to get deeper into their playbooks in these joint practices without fear that, the entire NFL is going to see what they're doing. But when you play in a preseason game, obviously the rest of the league has that film on you. And so that's a big reason why teams keep things, quote unquote, vanilla in the preseason, is that they don't want the rest of the NFL knowing what they're doing scheme wise. And so you can do that in a joint practice when it's one other team that is going to see what you're doing. And typically these happen ahead of a preseason game. And typically you're not playing, when you play a preseason game against a team, you're typically not facing them in the regular season. And so they really can go deeper into their playbook without sort of spoiling, the element of surprise.
Brady Henderson from ESPN.com, who covers the Seahawks, joins us here on 620 Rip City Radio. You mentioned to us a couple of weeks ago, Brady, that it was pretty clear by OTAs and by minicamp that there was not going to be any sort of quarterback competition, that it was Geno's job, and it was pretty cut and dry by that point in time. And then the rumblings, and by that I mean, I don't know, doofuses on the internet that throw stuff out there that I pay attention to. sounds like P.J. Walker might be making a run at backup. Is Sam Howell just having like a disastrous camp, or is this just people looking for something to talk about because we really care about backup quarterbacks in training camp, and then once the actual games start, we forget about them until injuries come around? But camp tradition has always been who's going to win that backup role. Is there a competition there between Howell and Walker?
No.
Okay. Got it.
No.
Moving on. Moving forward.
I'm going to tell you this right now, and I'll quote George H.W. Bush. Read my lips, even though you can't read my lips over the radio. P.J. Walker is not going to beat out Sam Howell for the number 2 job. I think maybe P.J. Walker sticks around as the third quarterback on the practice squad, but he's not going to beat out Howell for the number 2 job. And look, that's not to say that P.J. Walker has been bad or Sam Howell's been great. I mean, the gap between them hasn't really been as big as you might imagine. It's because Howell has struggled, and there's no doubt about it. And what's interesting is, a few weeks into training camp, I talked to a Seahawks source about Howell, and he said, you know what, he's sort of a gamer, right? A guy who you're really not going to see his best come out in a practice the way you'll see it in a preseason game. And Mike McDonald even said something similar to that on the record. And I thought, okay, that sounds, I'm a little leery of that, just because the big issue with Howell has, in practice at least, has been his accuracy. Or at least one of the big issues has been his accuracy. And I'm thinking, okay, how does your accuracy suddenly get better from, again, the controlled environment of a practice to a preseason game when pass rushers aren't letting up, they're hitting you? Like, how does your accuracy suddenly get better from one setting to the next? And I would say that in the preseason game, he did look better. He did look better in that game. The accuracy was still a little shaky, but it was better. The timing looked a little better. He's one of the things that you'll see if you watch him in practice and even in a game is he takes off running a lot. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that's always because the protection is breaking down. I think he just maybe gets a little antsy in the pocket and he takes off. And I've wondered if that's a byproduct of taking 65 sacks last season, and he also got sacked a ton in college. And I just wonder if maybe the internal clock has sort of sped up a little bit with him, at least when it comes to facing pressure, because you'll see him take off a lot, but then you'll also see him hold on to the ball too long at times, and you just see him take, obviously quarterbacks aren't getting hit in practices, but you'll see him take a lot of would-be sacks. And so just the timing doesn't really seem like it's there for him. And but you saw in the preseason game that he played with a little better timing. The accuracy was a little bit better, and it maybe lends credence to the idea that this guy is something of a gamer. Now, also supporting that theory is the fact that, in the few practices since that game, is he sort of reverted to practice Sam Howell, at least in my eyes. And so I haven't watched him as closely, or I didn't watch him as closely during these two practices as I did earlier, because I was watching sort of the defense on the other field for the most part. But, it is curious just because I know that he is not playing as well as they thought and hoped, but I still don't think that he's in any danger of losing out to P.J. Walker for that number 2 job.
Brady Henderson from ESPN.com joining us here on 620 Rip City Radio. It seems as though, Brady, every year there's kind of that camp standout, that guy who you kind of look around and go, like, I didn't have any idea who this guy was, and he might even make the roster. Have there been any of those guys so far in the first couple of weeks of camp for the Seahawks that have kind of been kind of those bright, shining camp standouts?
Yeah, in terms of bottom of the roster type guys that are really oh my God, this guy is definitely going to make the team. I could throw out a couple like George Holani, who's the undrafted rookie running back from Boise State, who looks like he's really making a strong push for that number 3 running back spot, really competing with Kenny McIntosh for that spot. So Holani, I think it just depends on whether they keep 3 or 4 running backs, but he's definitely going to stick around in one capacity or another. In terms of other, sort of bubble type guys, I think Laviska Shenault had a really good preseason game the other day. He has not really stood out in practice, but just because he's in sort of a deep wide receiver core, and he hasn't really distinguished himself from those guys as a receiver in practice. But I think he's there first and foremost to return kicks, and he had that big kickoff return, the 44-yarder. In the preseason game. Then he also had a couple nice catches on bubble screen. And then I would say the other guy who's really stood out is Jake Bobo. And I don't know if he was totally in danger of ever not making the team, just because he made the team last year, and what he can do as just a big-bodied, tough receiver who also plays on special teams. But, he has totally solidified his spot as that number 4 guy. And, look, with Tyler Lockett not doing a whole lot, Tyler Lockett seems to be on sort of a maintenance program, just that I think he turns 31 in a month or so, and you really haven't seen him do a whole lot. He doesn't miss a lot of practice, but he also hasn't done a whole lot of team stuff consistently. I wonder if Bobo, obviously DK Metcalf is the number 1 guy, Jackson Smith-Njigba looks like he's a breakout candidate this year, and I think Bobo could maybe have a bigger role in the offense than your typical number 4 receiver. Not that he's going to be some great fantasy football stud, but he looks like he could be a nice little weapon for them, maybe in the red zone, just because you see him consistently make those tough contested catches in the red zone. Saw a couple of them yesterday, including a one-hander and then another one where he high-pointed this fade, back shoulder fade over a Titans defensive back. So Bobo continues to impress me just with the toughness and the hands. He might have the best hands on the team, and then obviously playing a whole lot on special teams as well.
We've talked about this a ton because it is not only Mike McDonald's first year, but it's the first year for an entire coaching staff, and it's not been that way for the Seahawks for a good chunk of the decade, a decade plus under Pete Carroll. And now that it's kind of settled in a little more, are you getting a feel? What do you think kind of the style of Mike McDonald is going to be? Obviously, he was brought in from Baltimore, brought in because of the defense. But what do you think? Because part of that was we talked about on this show about the 5 fights and DK Metcalf. Is Mike McDonald maybe kind of pumped about that, trying to bring some of that Baltimore physicality? What do you think? And again, this is early, pencil, not pen, is going to be kind of the style of these Seahawks? Because Brady, I'll be honest, I have no idea what to expect from this team heading into the season.
Yeah, well, I think stylistically, football-wise, I think this offense might not, just as a as an approach, I should say, it might not be a whole lot different because Pete Carroll really wanted to run the ball to set up, explosive plays in the passing game. And I think generally that is the idea with Ryan Grubb's offense. They're going to throw the ball a lot more than Ryan Grubb did at UW the last 2 seasons because that was one of the more pass-happy offenses in the NFL. But I think stylistically, just in terms of like the most basic way of playing football, it's probably not going to be a whole lot different approach-wise under Pete. You want to play tough defense. You want to run the ball. You want to set up explosive plays in the passing game. Obviously, the defense is going to look way different just schematically, and this defense is going to be built on communication and really confusing offensive players. In terms of McDonald's approach as a head coach, the thing that really has already stood out quite a bit is that he's a very detail-oriented guy, and he is a guy who is going to hold players accountable. And I think that Pete Carroll's approach was very different, and he was a guy who really, if you just watch practice, the whole practice, the idea was it was all about intensity and competition. And you saw the coaches would sort of really try to work players up right at the start of practice when they would go through the bag drills and they'd be hooting and hollering and trying to slap the ball out of them. And it was just trying to create this chaotic, energetic environment. And that was, I think, the priority. Whereas the priority under Mike McDonald, it seems to be details, coaching, getting things right. You'll see them if they screw something up, they'll do it again. And Mike McDonald has this saying of, I think the saying is "make it right," which is all about holding players accountable and being on the details in a way that I don't think Pete Carroll was. And I think that when he was interviewing for that job, I don't think they were looking for an anti-Pete Carroll, but some of the things that he told them about accountability and details, I think that really struck a nerve with them because I think that the organization felt like some of that really waned in the later years of Pete Carroll. And so we've seen Mike McDonald much more willing to get on players, and I think his entire coaching staff is as well. You see them coaching players a lot harder in the moment than you did under Pete Carroll. And Carroll had his style of, he sort of coached more like a parent, and he treated these guys more like kids. And he wasn't the sort of, drill sergeant guy who was just lighting these guys up whenever they screwed up. And not to say that McDonald was doing that, but you are seeing a coach who's much more willing to rebuke players and to really yell at them and to swear and to, really coach these guys hard. And it really stands out just from watching it, even from the sideline.
All right, Brady, we got 30 seconds just between you and me. We're the only ones here. And maybe I would assume the massive numbers of people that are listening. We get the Brady Henderson bump when you come on the show. But 30 seconds between you and me. Do you like the new kickoff? How do you feel about it?
Oh, the new kickoff. I think it's very strange. When you watch it on TV, it looks like half of the screen is frozen. And
That's true. It does look like it's buffering.
The other half is normal, but the half the screen is frozen. Yeah, I like it just because the kickoff had become a throwaway play, and you would almost never see anything of interest happen on a kickoff. But now you are actually going to see there's more room for the returner to operate, and fewer injuries is always a good thing. But more returns and maybe more touchdowns and more times where the kicker gets involved in making a tackle. Yeah, I think it's a good thing. It's definitely going to take some time getting used to, but I think it's going to be a good thing for the league and just for the viewing public.
There you go. You can follow him on Twitter or X at Brady Henderson. You can read his stuff at ESPN.com, and you can hear from time to time on this fine radio show. Hey, Brady, enjoy the game tomorrow. Safe travels back to Seattle. We'll talk to you again soon, bud.
All right, thanks, Justin. See you later, man.
There you go. Brady Henderson, boys and girls. We have got the RCM mailbag next, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, fantastic stuff from Brady Henderson. Last segment. Seahawks confuse me. I shouldn't say confuse me. I am befuddled. I do not know what they're going to look like. You know what I mean? Like, I was just so used to seeing the Pete Carroll coached Seattle Seahawks.
Pete Carroll just chewing his gum to a powder.
Just chomping his gum and,
It will feel weird. But then again, Justin, they'll get some celebrity to raise up the 12. And
no one get real celebrities. They get, like, Seattle celebrities. They get, like, Rainn Wilson.
Don't hate on Chris Pratt. Right?
Chris Pratt.
He's solid, man. I love me some Chris Pratt. But yeah, I mean, Rainn Wilson. I mean, how could you hate on Dwight? Come on.
I don't, but like
raise that 12, baby.
Like Joel McHale. It's like
that's true. Yeah. Raise that 12, man. But no, you're right. It's going to be it's hard to see what's going to happen with the Hawks this year.
It's going to be interesting. I don't know if they're going to be very good.
Me neither.
I don't think they're going to be very good because.
But would that
I don't know if Geno Smith's going to be very good.
But would that be the worst thing? Like I mentioned
But they also have a really good defense.
Yeah, like I mentioned it when I was catching up with one of our NFL guys earlier in the week, and I'm like, wouldn't the Seahawks not be too upset about a down year so they could go get a dude like Quinn Ewers?
Yeah, I don't know if it works that way, in the NFL.
Yeah, I know.
Like
just saying it. Like if they won 4 games, would the Seahawks organization be all that upset? I don't think so. Because you could go get yourself.
If they only win 4 games, something went terribly wrong.
Okay, fine. 5 or 6.
I know what you mean, and you're not wrong. I'm just.
If the wheels kind of fell off a little bit, would anybody be really upset?
I think there are a lot of fans that would be very, very upset. Because I think, much like the rest of the NFL, Seahawks fans are delusional. And that's a good thing. Look, I'm an Oregon fan. I'm delusional, okay? I'm a delusional Oregon fan. You're kind of a delusional Oregon State fan.
Hey, man, 10% chance to make the playoff. Let's go.
Exactly right. You're supposed to be delusional.
I
don't. Boy, I got the 49ers twice. This is
I know,
tough.
right? They got tough division.
And they.
Cardinals are back. Rams are back. Like, it's tough pickings, dude.
And they play the Lions in Detroit early. And anyways, there's going to be football is back. I'm so pumped. We just got to get through next week. But that being said, to get to next week, we got to get to the weekend. To get to the weekend, we got to get to the mailbag.
Yeah, speaking of that, Justin, I'm actually getting kind of excited. I know it's real because this is the final scrimmage for Oregon State of fall camp tomorrow, as camp will kind of close next week and we'll transition towards game week. So last 2.5.
Are you versed on the Idaho State Bengals?
As much as you can be for the Bengals.
We're probably going to talk about this next week because, like you said, they picked a quarterback yet?
Not yet, but
that's the thing about the Beavs. Like, we don't know about Trent Bray, head coach. We know about Trent Bray, defensive coordinator.
Very true.
Trent Bray, head coach, I'll show you who the quarterback is when we take the first snaps. Is he like, they're not going to lose to Idaho State. You could play 2 guys.
Play 3.
You could play 3
put a running
and just
back
use that as a preseason game and evaluate before you for Oregon.
You got to get them ready before Oregon. But they did say this week.
That's going to be fascinating.
Yeah, they did. We asked them about that, and they said they want to commit to 1 guy before Idaho State. So I think we'll have some clarity this weekend. But I think they're going to be kind of like Dan Lanning a couple years ago. Mm-hmm. You'll see when they go out there.
Because it was funny because Oregon, like Chip Kelly, he announced his first year. Well, his first year it was Mariota, and it wasn't really a competition. He had won the job the year before, so he was returning. When he did have a decision to make that next year, it was like all the way up until game week, but named a starter the week before going into practice. Whereas Bellotti would be like, he had no problem playing 2 quarterbacks that first 2 or 3 games of the season.
Like, and just a different time. But like you said, like, I don't know if Bellotti was quite this way too, Justin, but like, just the way that, like, again, you used to be able to go up to Mike Riley at practice, and he'd be like, "Oh, what's up? How are you?" And you could just ask him questions like in between like drills and things. And he was another guy who was like, early in camp, so and so's our guy. Like, and that gamesmanship wasn't quite as much of a thing back then. I feel like maybe social media changed that quite a bit.
Social media definitely changed
because,
that
like,
a lot.
You know, like back then it was like, oh, so-and-so's hurt. And they used to say, yeah, so-and-so has a ACL, he's out. Now it's, well, you know, he'll be out for a minute. We're not really sure. Like college football, I think used to be even a little bit more transparent with things like, you know, now you have coaches who are like, for instance, we interview and it's like, so, you know, coach, you know, Oregon State's moving from a pro style to a spread style offense this year. What are the differences? Well, I can't tell you. That's the scheme. It's like, you know, stuff like that where it's, you know, back in the day, Mike Riley had been like, boy, let me tell you what's different.
Yeah, Riley was of a different time
He was?
and a different era. All right, let's get one mailbag question in before we wrap up the big show.
Let's go ahead and fire up the mailbag. What TV show setting would you like to live in, Justin?
All right. You're going to think this is bad, but I don't care. Cheers. I would like to live in Cheers. I would like to have every day a bar that I go to after work where all of my friends are there and it's just a cool place to hang out for a couple of hours every day. And I'm buddies with the bartender and I know it's in the song, right? It's where everybody knows your name. If you do that in real life, well, people may look at you sideways. But, like, could you just imagine, like, I know you go to trivia every Wednesday and you got a group of friends. Like, imagine, like, every day on Cheers, they just were like, Norm showed up, Norm. And it's like, Norm's there, and his buddy Cliff Clavin's there, and their friend Woody, the bartender, is there. And that's the world that I want to live in. I want to be, like, Kelly and I, every day, just go to the bar, and all of our friends are there, and...
You'd be disappointed, Justin. I actually have not done trivia in months.
Oh, boy.
Just the way that the schedule is broke and being gone, people being gone. Like, it's been a couple-month hiatus. But we'll get back to it once the season gets into full swing.
Yeah. A, it's not healthy, and B, it might become problematic, and, but, like, wouldn't that be just so cool if just, like, you had, like, the neighborhood bar, and every time you're there, without even setting it up, all your friends are there. It's like, hey, there's Frazier. Hey, Frazier, how's it going? And then Frazier's got a thing, and then they got to make jokes about it on Cheers. All right, that's going to do it for the big show. Enjoy your Friday and enjoy your Cheers, whatever that is. Thanks to Brady Henderson. Thanks to super producer Brenden. Thanks to all of you. Have a terrific weekend. We'll talk to you on Monday morning, 620, Rip City Radio.